All right, Sistas fans, and I know you probably like, Jeremy, a Sistas video? Yes, I actually watched this week's episode earlier today before I did my live stream, and up front, yeah, I can kind of see why I stopped watching Sistas. Hear me out. This is going to be a quick disclaimer, then I'll get to the topic of the video. No, I'm not going to put a timestamp so you can skip ahead because you need to hear this. I stopped watching around episode 12 or 13 just because of the fact that videos were not getting a lot of views, even though now I look back at them and some of the latest ones I posted have been getting 4,000 to 7,000 plus views. So, okay, that's interesting. Number two, the episodes were kind of boring. Remember the last episode I remember watching all the way through. I watched it at double speed. So I actually watched the episode within 20 minutes. And during that sped up process, I really noticed the amount of dramatic pauses after a character says something. Literally, a character will say one line of dialogue. Then there's like a 30-second pause. And then the other character will say something. And then it's like a back and forth of repetitive dialogue. Let me explain. What the are you doing here? I told you never call me again. Why are you at my front door? Let me explain. Hey, wait. It got boring really fast. The Andi storyline still the best thing to me. I really do like where that's going. But in terms of like Gary, easily the least favorite character in mine. And I'm not saying him and Zach. And it's not because your man Gary's a cheater and whatnot. That's why he's your least favorite. No, his character is boring. It's just the same stuff every time. It's like, let me explain. But you never explain shit, Gary. You never tell Andi what you're doing, why you're doing it. You just basically give these empty promises and yeah. So in this video, we're going to be talking about Morris Day, not more. Okay, my bad. I was actually watching Vlad TV earlier. I watched the full interview of Morris Day, so I got the time on my mind. So, you know, what time is it? Time to do a Sistas video. Now, even though I haven't been watching every freaking episode, thankfully people have been sending me video clips with the highlights. So I really appreciate that. So I know what's going on in the series, but I'm not watching the series, if that makes any sense. So Morris is the lawyer working on Jasmine and Gary's side, and basically he asked Andi out, and Andi, after being furious at Gary for being brought to her, look, I forgot the her assistant's name, but yeah, she basically rolled him in there like, you know, hey, here's a cart full of your stuff that you left behind, and it's Gary. Okay, I want to do a separate video about the $100,000. Don't worry, that video is coming, but this video is just focusing on Morris. Gary, number one, you called Andi Jasmine, and number two, you were just acting controlling again. It's like, oh, so you're going out with somebody else? Who is it? And instead of telling Andi why going out with Morris is a bad idea, you just said, I don't like that. You shouldn't go out with him. Now, I'm not saying Andi should trust Gary because his track record is pretty slim at this point. All I'm saying is this. Gary could have told Andi the truth about Morris, because I feel like it's one of two things. Either Gary knew about Morris in the sense of why Andi was a successful lawyer, or he knows who Morris really is in terms of being a dog and how he pushed himself on women. I'm more inclined to believe that Gary was aware of the kind of guy Morris is, given the fact that he's a cheater. So I think, you know, hey, game recognized game, or in this case, garbage recognizes garbage. So he gets kicked out, and pretty much, I guess you could say, Andi, who is enraged at this moment, decides to speed up the timetable on her date with Morris. So they go to, what was it, Freddie P's, right, for drinks. They get there. This was probably my favorite scene of the episode before the ending of the episode. So Morris is offering Andi pretty much, you know, hey, why don't you come work for me? I'm part of the bar. We can work things out because, you know, we don't, basically, you know, the conversation, you know, you're kind of thinking like, yeah, it's like, yeah, Andi, you know, effed up, but her talent and her skill as a lawyer is too good to just be wasted because of this one affair. So it would be smart for Morris to have Andi on his team. But it pretty much, you know, goes darker at that point, where he pretty much questions her integrity, hooking up with Gary, you know, somebody for money. The fact that lawyers, you know, honesty really isn't something that is valued in their profession. And then goes on to say that, come on, Andy, you know, the only reason you're winning all these cases and you have as much success as you do is because of the fact that you look hot, you know, your body and everything. The judges want to have sex with you. Andy obviously has had enough. And Morris pretty much gives an ultimatum like, hey, you come to the bathroom, you know, you go down on me, and we'll see what we can do about getting you that job. And she's like, well, if I don't, it's going to be the biggest mistake of your life. Pretty much meaning that, you know, hey, if you don't do it with me right now in the bathroom like I want you to, kind of like Lily and Bobby did in the first episode of The Oval in the bathroom at the airport, you're never going to work in this town again. I'll make sure of that. So she tells him to go to the back. He actually goes, and then she rushes out of the bar or restaurant or wherever it is, tries to get to, and thank you to the people on the live stream earlier today. I could not think of the title of, wait, who are the guys that get your cars and go back and forth? It's the valets. My bad. Look, I don't really go out anywhere, so I really wouldn't know. But anyway, the valet, you know, the one guy she knows gives the keys, but then she gets to her car, and then there's a car parked in front. The one guy she's asking, could you move the car? I was like, man, we're doing the best we can. Obviously, it looked very busy, so they couldn't just cater to Andi because of her situation, because obviously they didn't know. And Andi was making some of the biggest mistakes that I remember being told of, you know, in like those kind of classes back in like high school and whatnot about like, well, specifically, you know, those kind of programs at school. They talk about, you know, women like, you know, hey, don't bring attention to yourself if you're like alone in a dark area or whatever. So Andi screaming didn't really help because Morris was able to hear her voice, find her car, get in there. And pretty much, you know, it reminded me of Professor Cannon and Amanda from the Haves and Have-Nots, where, believe it or not, this was hear me out, a good scene in terms of how it was written, because if you go back to the Haves and Have-Nots, you had Amanda who was dolled up by Candace to get a retest by Professor Cannon. Professor Cannon assumed that based off how Amanda was looking and how she lived with Candace, that she was an escort, and before assaulting her, he pretty much, you know, belittled her and was, you know, destroying her mentally and emotionally before doing what he did to her, which kind of mirrored what Morris was doing. You had someone who was confident and successful as a lawyer who happened to make a mistake along the way, and he was pretty much diminishing her journey, and that was a big turnoff for her. And then he actually goes on, thinks that this is some kind of twisted game, and tries to push up on her. Now, let me put it this way. Do I think that in the next episode, Andy's going to be fully assaulted? I think not. I think the car valets will probably overhear what's going on and save her at the last minute, because I do know in the preview she's like, I'm at the police station, I've been attacked, so we will have to wait and see how that plays out. You could make the argument that, you know, even if Andi gets saved and she decides to report Morris, will anyone believe her? Because Morris being on the bar will probably have, this is definitely like a Me Too times up moment written into the series about men abusing their power in order to get women to do what they want in order to get, you know, positions, you know, in a promotion or whatever the situation is. So the question is, will Andi fully be assaulted? I think not. She might get saved by the valets, or hell, maybe Gary might show up. I don't know, because Andi did tell Gary where she was going to be at. So I don't know. Maybe Gary saves her, or like the valets do. But in any case, we do know that some people were telling me in the live stream it was badly acted, it was cringy. Whatever. That's the kind of scene that I don't really care to see anyway, but we saw it. And yeah, I think that even if Andi was told by Gary about Morris, then she probably wouldn't believe him, because she'll be like, oh, you're just saying that about Morris in order to not. Yeah, you're only saying that about Morris to make me not want to go out with him because you don't want to see me with anyone else. So guess what? I'm going anyway. So even if that happened, I wouldn't fully blame Andi, because once again, Gary's track record of being honest and whatnot isn't that great. So do you think Andy's going to be saved in time before Morris goes too far? Not to say that he hasn't already gone too far. And even if she reports it to the authorities, will she be believed? Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Would you like me to continue doing sister videos, or do you like it when I just chime in whenever big things in the show that are worth talking about? actually happen. So again, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss out on any new content. Give this video a thumbs up and check me out on social media. Links are in the description below.